I am very fortunate to have a global audience for this program. And because we have a global audience, I get questions from all over the world, and I get questions at all times of the day or night, mostly to my email, info at brianjmatos.com, but also through social media channels, through Twitter. I get some questions on Facebook. And so I wanted to come on to YouTube specifically and do a YouTube exclusive clip for you to answer a couple of your questions and also to give you a little preview of what's on my mind and therefore what we're going to try to tackle in season 3 of the Brian J. Matos podcast. So today I'm just going to give you a quick preview and I'm going to answer one of your questions. And then I want you to keep coming back to this YouTube channel to hear other responses to questions I have from the audience, because you all have said very clearly you love the guests, you love the program, but you want to hear a little bit more from me and how I'm thinking about issues and topics and big trends. So I'm happy to offer you some of that insight, some of my questions, and some of the things that are on my mind. And I love to do that on this channel specifically. So, to be clear, the content you're hearing today is a YouTube exclusive. This will not be on the general podcast feed for everybody else who are subscribers on those platforms. So, I do hope that you will subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. But for those of you who follow specifically on YouTube, where we have the biggest global subscriber base and listeners from truly all over the planet, I wanted to do something special just for you. And so I hope that if you're not a subscriber and you're hearing this, you will become a subscriber so that you can be the first to receive clips like this. So let me begin by giving you a sense of what is in planning, what is on my mind, what have I been thinking about for season 3. So there's 3 global mega trends, I'll say, that have been in the news for all of us, but anybody who follows this show, you know that I don't focus on just the news of the day. This program is about the big trends, the big topics, those mega issues that are affecting everybody everywhere. And so the headlines fit into that, but I'm more interested in the big picture, not the daily comings and goings. So I've had the global economy and the rapidly evolving global economy on my mind for quite some time. And for those who've been following the news recently, that is on everybody's mind now. But, take trade policy out of it, take tariff wars out of it, take, trade constraints out of it. The fact of the matter is, with or without major policy changes, the global economy was changing already. And natural changes in demographics and economic growth of nations around the world, the natural rising of powers around the world and the general decline of others, various conflicts, these were all going to play a role in evolving our economy anyway. And the global economy does make big shifts every so often. So this was as good a time as any to talk about the merits of currencies, of trade, of business policies, and not to forget the workers in our international economy as well, and to think about what domestic production looks like in 2025 in Europe and the United States, as well as in Latin America and the Middle East and Africa, and anywhere else in the world where manufacturing is an important part of an economy and where there's a potential for policies to affect what those jobs look like and what kind of quality of work that is for people. So rest assured that we are diligently working on getting important guests to bring important perspectives on our rapidly evolving global economy, but we're not going to deep dive into every little policy nuance of every political official in the world. We're going to take a step back and really look at the biggest possible picture so that you all have a better sense of the changing global economic environment around us. One of the other megatrends I think is really important to talk about is the future of international institutions like the United Nations and NATO and the implications on that for geopolitical security. So we have had guests talk extensively about the conflicts in the Middle East, about the conflict in Ukraine, about other conflict zones around the world. And who knows, by the time you listen to this, something else may have broken out somewhere in the world. But what we haven't done is to take a step back again from the headlines and to think bigger picture about the geopolitical situation in the world, about geopolitical security or insecurity in the world. And as institutions like the United Nations and NATO continue to age and in some cases atrophy, what does that mean for specific countries? What does that mean for societies? What does that mean for businesses? And what could that mean for the future of the international order and how decisions are made about security on a nation by nation basis? Now, you can argue that the economic changes and the geopolitical security challenges are intertwined, and of course they are. But we think each of them deserves their own separate set of conversations. And so that's megatrend number 2 that we're going to be talking about. And then megatrend number 3, which does play off of a little bit of our rapidly changing geopolitical situation, is the future of warfare. And unfortunately, the future of warfare may be the present of warfare. The use of drones in Ukraine, for example, and how a relatively small country compared to its neighbor and its aggressor in that conflict, how they have been forced to innovate in a moment of crisis and shown the entire world the potential of relatively inexpensive drones that can be turned into highly efficient killing machines in the battlefield. Talking about whether manned fighter jets are going to be obsolete, a previously unimaginable thought, is now within the realm of conversation. And now in this environment, we have to think about the ethics of unmanned drones and potentially the future of autonomous drones and what authority we're going to give them on the battlefield. The other aspect of modern warfare is hybrid warfare. You know, we talk a lot about and we think a lot about these horrendous conflicts in places like Ukraine. But let's not forget that in 2025 and beyond, cyber attacks on critical infrastructure are acts of war. Cyber attacks against the power grid of a nation, against defense industry software, against telecommunications or financial institutions. These can also be seen as acts of aggression that may require an international response. Even things down to clandestine operations stirring civil unrest in countries, deliberately spreading misinformation to generate hostility within a nation. This hybrid style of warfare doesn't explicitly include uniformed military personnel and heavy equipment storming across a battlefield, and yet they are all important tools for any nation state that wants to advance its geopolitical strategy. And so what is that future of warfare? What are the things that we should be thinking about? And what does it mean for our countries? What does it mean for society? What does it mean for the future of those who want to join in the military? What does the future warrior of the world really look like? Now, we don't want to spend all of our time on these heavy, thoughtful academic problems. We also want to talk about the things that affect all of us. And so one topic that I really want to dive into in this season is the raising of families in the modern world especially. This is a topic that doesn't get talked about enough, and I think it does have a lot of implications to our economics, to our society, to our finances, to our future. There's a reason why, and we explored in season 2, we've seen birth rates declining and why some people's preferences have been to have one child or no children at all. But what we haven't talked about enough is those who have children. They're having a hard time raising those kids, and not just in the United States, but all over the world. So let's explore that topic a little bit. And let's also explore it in the context of working professionals, in the context of working households where perhaps somebody does have the opportunity to have a flexible schedule, but is also dealing with aging parents or other challenges in their life. There's a lot of strain on working parents today, men and women alike, and I think this is the right show for us to talk about that. The other topic that is a bigger one is the future of work. This is something that we talk about once or twice a year. when we hear from the World Economic Forum or we hear from a major consultancy that lets us daydream about what the future of work could look like. But it's more important than ever that we really begin a deeper conversation now before all the innovations of automation come along and fundamentally change the nature of work. We hear a lot about the potential that AI, advanced robotics, quantum computing can bring to us. We hear a lot that some of these jobs could bring a technological revolution to the white collar roles that industrialization automation brought to blue collar roles. But what does that really mean? And are we thinking of all of the right things about the future of work? I mean, have we even really talked about the implications of hybrid schedules versus in-office schedules and how that ties into the future of an office space that is including autonomous or semi-autonomous equipment that is there to help you but is running 24 hours a day and you're only there for 8 hours of that day? What about the tools of the future that we're going to need to be effective and engaging? So if we are all in an office, but we need to be engaging internationally, what are the tools of the future? What's the Zoom conference of the future? That's another topic we want to spend some time on. And then, look, this isn't fun if we don't do a few things that are interesting and controversial and contrarian. And so we have a lot of those. Space travel is on my list. Is it inspirational and something we should strive for, or is it wasteful and self-indulgent? We've had some big thinkers put papers out and give interviews with their opinions, but maybe we take that down to a level that we can all, as common people who are probably not going to get shot into space anytime soon, can have a discussion on. And then also, I'm exploring the topic of illiberal democracies. And when we get to that episode, we'll dive into it a little bit more. But there has been a bit of a trend here of leaders around the world elected democratically, but then taking on more anti-democratic policies and maybe bringing a strongman style of government that is acceptable to a population that can still throw them out of office if they don't want to keep them there. There are varying views on the value of this, and there are some who support it, and I'd love to hear from all sides. So look, that's a lot of topics. It's going to take us a while to book all of the guests to cover all of them thoroughly, but I really believe these are some of the big mega trends that we all need to be thinking about, and therefore we need to be talking about. And as a reminder, this program is not here to tell you what to think. This program is here to give you different perspectives, ask as many great questions as we can of the smartest people we can find so that you can form your own unbiased opinion based on the information that we help to gather for you. Because you don't have time to do that, but we love it, and we're happy to do that for you. So let me conclude by answering. I said I was going to answer one of your questions. Let me answer one question from my inbox. Again, if you want to reach out to me, it's info@brianjmatos.com. And so the question that I received, this was from one of our listeners in Australia. Thank you so much for listening to us from down under. And the question was, what is your top concern? What is your top fear going into 2025? So I received this question a few months ago towards the end of 2024. And so I just wanted to answer this one up front. And it's not meant to be dismissive, and it's not meant to be in any way facetious. I don't have any fears, and I encourage you not to have any fears either. There's nothing in this world worthy of the anxiety of fear. Nothing. So I'm going to flip the question a little bit, and I am going to say, what am I concerned about most? What is my biggest concern? And so, look, we're 4 months into the year, so it's a little bit of a cheat now for me to say what my concerns might be. What I will tell you is my biggest concern is not the day-to-day things. My biggest concern is whether or not people are still curious, or whether people around the world have entrenched themselves so deeply in ideological camps that they're no longer willing to hear from the other side. That a show like this doesn't have a place anymore because people aren't asking questions, they're just making statements. That's my biggest concern. And that's part of the reason, and it's the big part of the reason why I do the show. Because I believe that there's still a lot of people out there who haven't made up their minds about big topics and big issues. There's a lot of people who are just curious and they're open to different perspectives and they want to hear from different opinions. They want to hear robust debate and robust conversation. And so that's what we're here to do. And so I say this as I wrap up this clip simply to say that whatever you're concerned about, do something about it. This show is one of the things that I do to address something I'm concerned about. I'm concerned that maybe there's some people out there, or maybe there's a lot of people out there who don't want to have dialogue anymore. But I believe it's only because they haven't heard good dialogue, haven't heard good conversation. So let's bring it to them. Let's bring this program and this show and what we do here to anybody who's got an open mind and is interested in the things that we talk about and is interested in the world around them. And in that way, we can address a concern of mine and perhaps a concern of yours. I appreciate you all on YouTube. Thank you for following me. Thank you for subscribing. If you're listening to this clip and it's the first time you're hearing from me, I hope you heard something you like. I hope that something in my Season 3 preview sparks your interest. And if it did, hit that subscribe button. You can join our community of global curious minds, and you'll be the first to know the next time a new clip drops on this channel or on my main podcast feed, which you can subscribe to anywhere, absolutely anywhere that you get your podcasts. Thank you so much for taking time to listen to me today. I'll talk to you again real soon.